Doch, Zoi Menucha, Damu Svila, Matzi Shabbos Kodesh. Before we enter into the week, we carry with us that feeling of Shabbos in order to start off our Selichos with a clean slate. Person finds himself within the situations of everyday life. It's hard to focus on what's really important. Though we may know what's really important, but it's just hard to focus on it because we have in our own eyes responsibilities and pulls in different ways that don't let us do what we want to really do. I heard once, fascinating thing, two chavrusas are arguing about a pshat and a gemara, and one says one pshat, the other says another pshat, and as they continue to learn, it eventually becomes clear that one of them is right and the other is wrong. And the one who is wrong will say, "You're right. Your pshat is right." It's uncommon that he should say, "My pshat is wrong." Now it's obvious when I say your pshat is right, that it means backhandedly that my pshat is wrong. But he didn't say it. Why doesn't somebody say it? Because it hurts. It hurts to say, I did something wrong. People feel that it takes away from their integrity. And the truth of the matter is that it's not true. On the contrary, the person can stand up and say what I did was wrong. That's strength of character. It's something people applaud, and people will give that person a vote of confidence in the future. Why? Because he's intellectually honest. The person who always has excuses and he can explain away why he did what he did, why he thought what he thought, why he understood wasn't his fault, even if it's sort of like true, it doesn't gain him any covet with anyone. There's nobody here that wants to do Averis. Everybody here only wants to do what's right. But the fact that we're here, we're making a statement, I was wrong. That in itself is a humbling thought, and it's, so to speak, already turning over a new leaf, starting a new approach to a new year. The Kloisenberger Rebbe, in his Sefer on Selichos, speaks many times about who am I to say what Klal Yisrael should do. I myself have my own Averis, and undoubtedly it's true. I myself heard from a gifter many times. I'm speaking to myself, but I'll let you listen in. We all have a touch of the same problem. We get carried away. We get carried away in a moment of doubt, uncertainty, and then we heap excuse on reason and do things which are truly folly. The historical day of Rosh Chodesh Elul, the process that we're in the midst of, is the time that Moshe Rabbeinu went up for the third time to receive Slicha Mechila V'Kapara on the Averos of Klal Yisrael. The Torah brings the makor for this idea of blowing shofar, so that we shouldn't make the mistake that happened the first time. I remember as a small child questioning this idea. We understood we made a mistake. We counted a half a day as a whole day. So this time around, wait another day, wait another 2 days. Why do we have to blow shofar? I'd like to answer 2 different answers to this question. And it's about human nature. First of all, if you did it once, you could do it again. What does that mean? I'd like to share with you a story that happened in the city of Brisk 110 years ago. I heard this story from Rosh Yeshiva when I came to Eretz Yisrael, and afterwards I heard it from Rav Reuben, one of the Hechsher. The story told almost identically, and as much as what's relevant to us. The minig in Klal Yisrael is that during Aseres Yimei Tshuva, the Shochtim bring their knives to the Rabbonim, and the Rabbonim check their knives to make sure that they're sharp and there is no nicks in them that could chalila cause the shechita to be inappropriate, and then the behemoth will be unavailable. The Minchas Yosef wrote 2 thick volumes on Hilchos Shechita. Was a shochet in Brisk. He brought his knives to the Beis Halevi to check, and the Beis Halevi checked them, and he said to them, I think there's a problem with this knife over here. Please check it again. Minchas Yosef said, I believe you, but I won't check it again. So Levi was taken aback, a little bit of chutzpah. Check it again. So Levi asked him, why won't you check it again? Listen to the words of Erlich Yit. He said, I know that I was bringing my knife to the Rav, and I am convinced I checked it to the best of my ability. I have no doubt if the Rav found something there, that there is a nick there that I missed. But I'm also sure that if I check it again, I won't find it. And he continued and said as follows, being that I'm the one that I have to do the shechita, and my ability to find this pegima is inferior, I resign. Beis Halevi heard these words, he's 100% convinced that he's wrong and inferior and feels he's inadequate to fulfill the position. Said the Beis Halevi, this is the Sheikh I want. This is the kind of Sheikh you could trust. And Minchas Yosef said, I'm not willing. And the haskama between the two was that when he's going to go to the Slonim Rebbe for Yomei Din V'Arachamim, the Slonim Rebbe will decide whether he should retire or not. That's story number one. I'm going to share with you a story that happened to myself when I was learning to be a shaykhit. I learned together with a shaykhit in Scranton, Pennsylvania, who for tens of years was known as the expert Chabadsker shaykhit. We lived for 3 years together, and before I departed, I wanted to get a letter attesting to my expertise from him, which is customary to get. And we made up that it's going to happen on a Monday morning. And I came the Monday morning to have my official examination. I noticed right away that Shaykhit was not his usual self. He was very nervous. And I asked him, what's going on? And he said to me something about the coming week's Parsha. Fascinating. He said, I am a Chabadsker Chassid, and according to Tzemach Tzedek, it's forbidden for a Jew to shave in Issur D'Oraisa. In order for me to write this letter, I have to write that Yirei Shemayim. I was in Crown Heights, so quote the sentence, and I was by somebody that both you and I would admire. I assume it was Rav Dvorkin, was a chaver of Yankel Landau. And he said, I can only give you a letter if you will sign a document for me that if you ever become a shaykhit, you'll grow a beard. Understand, it's a person that I learned with for 3 years. He knows me well. He promised me this letter. Very uncomfortable situation for him. As he's telling this to me, we're in a rush, we have to get to work. He's putting his chalofim out, and as he does so, one of them knocks into the other, and his face pales. He takes both chalofim and he checks them both, and there doesn't seem to be a nick in them at all. Gives them to me, I check them, nothing. So he says to me, it must be I hit it on the side, not on the lahav, not on the blade, and it's okay. Checks it again. He puts the knives down, stops for a split second, collects them both, puts them away, and takes out 2 other knives. So I ask him, what's going on? So he says to me, now is Shat Lachatz. Why should I rely on a bedika of Shas Lachatz? I have other knives. I'll put these away. I'll take out 2 others that I'm 100% clear. I checked them when I was at home. Baroga that they are okay. And I'll look these over when I'm not under pressure. Unbelievable level of Yirei Shemayim. One shaykhit says, I'm not going to check it again. And one sheikh says, it's never enough. Who am I supposed to learn from? And the answer is that both are correct. Depends on the situation. Klal Yisrael says we fell in once. I'm not going to rely on myself, so I'm going to have the shofar. That's one approach. A zehirus. And there's another approach. When the shas lachatz comes, how can you trust you won't fall into the hands of the Yetzer Hara? It's just a mistake. It's the Yetzer Hara. And the Yetzer Hara is going to tell you you made a mistake. You have no choice but to count. I want to tell you something. I want to admit something that I have personally an issue with. At the end of Yom Kippur, you say Hashemu Elokim 7 times. It's hard for me to count. It's hard to keep cheshbon. 3 words, 7 times, 21 words, and I can get lost in the middle. To count 40 days, maybe you made a mistake. We're infallible. You have to do whatever you can to make sure. But the first thing is you have to admit that you have a weak spot. David HaMelech, Kapitel Amid Beis, which deals with doing tshuva. Asher nusui pesha kisichato, people who do tshuva and admit their averos. And the pasuk says as follows: Chatosi odiacha avoni lo chisisi. I will tell you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, about my avera, and I will not hold back and say it didn't happen. Amarti oida elai pshoy Hashem. I will admit. V'ata nasosi avon chatosi sela. The Malbim explains, by the fact that the person is willing to step up to the plate and admit that he did something wrong, that will guarantee him slicha from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Obviously, there are levels and there are levels. From the nisyonis of admitting that we did something wrong, I would like to ask you the truth. I see this many times. Somebody's washing the tilas yadayim, and I see clearly the water doesn't go all the way to the wrist all around. I pointed out to the fellow, like a medaktik halacha. You know, that guy could be, he has a mirror and he's checking his tefillin 18 times during chakras. For some reason, there he understands to be a medaktik halacha, where there most places can say it doesn't have to be exactly in the center of his head. And this he says, you know, it's a little bit much. That person who's not careful just to bend his hand to make sure the water gets every single place in his hand, maybe that's called an avera shalom dosh ba'akeva. If somebody else who drives on Shabbos, is there a difference between the two? Depends what exactly you're asking. The Shari Tshuva says the infraction on the small Avera means you didn't listen to what HaKadosh Baruch Hu did. Asked. It doesn't make a difference how big a thing it is. HaKadosh Baruch Hu told you to do X and you didn't do it. There's no difference whether it's a small thing, insignificant and unimportant. The bottom line is you didn't listen to what HaKadosh Baruch Hu asked, or you did something which you may understand is colossal. HaKadosh Baruch Hu asked, and you didn't deliver. It's scary. It's scary. I'm going to mention something which I feel is important, that it needs chizuk, not only during Yemei Slichos, but in Slichos it's especially difficult. Coming on time to daven. I'm not right now discussing the subject of coming on time to davening for itself. The person has an appointment to ask Mechila of the Melech, and he comes late. What are your chances that you're going to get to Mechila? How could you come late to Slichos? It's an oxymoron. But if it's not a problem, I could show you how you can come late. But it's hard for me to believe that the person who comes late to Slichos is really asking Mechila. Just can't be. But even asking Mechila can be something of rote. Somebody has a bill of health, that he's well, and he sees people around him, nebuch, that are sick, he may be thankful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But a person who was sick and he came back, something totally different. I heard a story this week about a friend of mine's grandmother that was in Auschwitz, and she was put into the gas chambers, and she took a look around, and she saw that all the people in the gas chambers together with her, none of them seemed to be religious. It's a true story. And she asked any of them if they knew Shema Yisrael, and none of them knew Shema Yisrael. And the few short minutes that they had until the gas started to come, she explained to them what Shema Yisrael means, and they all said Shema Yisrael. And as soon as she finished saying to them Shema Yisrael, the door opened, the SS man called her by name and told her, come out. All of them were gassed and killed, and she lived through the war. She got people that their whole life had no idea of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is, and that they should die with Yichud Shmoi, and she lived on to tell the story. It's no wonder that this lady's Einiklach are outstanding Talmidei Chachamim. She was taken from the clutches of death for no reason. She understood she has a mission. And Haboisai, Klal Yisrael sinned in the ego, and they were doomed to be killed. came along Moshe Rabbeinu, stormed Shemayim for 40 days, and he got us a reprieve. Are we any different? Kadosh Baruch Hu said, I want to obliterate Klal Yisrael. We're going to start over again from Moshe Rabbeinu. And Moshe Rabbeinu prevailed. We were saved. We have a mission. That mission is what we focus on in these 40 days. To do tshuva and to understand what we're supposed to be doing in our lives. How do we do tshuva? The essence of tshuva is perspective. Again, we're on Motzei Shabbos. We're all tired. But that's good, because our defense system is down. And whatever I say, you probably will agree with, because how much can you be paying attention? But once I get you to agree, then you committed yourself. We all understand that we've been lax. What have we been lax with? Because Baruch Hu's mitzvah is something, and we don't take it seriously. It doesn't make a difference whether it's speaking Lashon Hara. Doesn't make a difference whether it's Bittul Torah. Doesn't make a difference if it's being meraheter to take something that's not yours. If you really believe that Kadosh Baruch Hu was here watching, you wouldn't be doing it. I had the schus last week to speak someplace to people who came to Eretz Yisrael for the first time. And I shared with them my first time that I saw somebody throw a piece of trash on the floor in Yerushalayim HaKodesh. Boy, did it hurt. The Paltin Shel Melech. To treat it like a street in New York City, I didn't say it should be done there either. That is in Mokum. The same applies in Zman. If a person during this time of year just throws out a bracha and doesn't say it with kavanah, we are under HaKadosh Baruch Hu's scrutiny right now. Doing an Aveira, the same Aveira today, is worse than if you did the same Aveira a month ago. The Zman is Machayev that we be more careful. We're here now because we want to be nischazek to be more careful. We're going to start Selichos in just a few minutes. And I'm sure that all of us have an area which we feel that if we put our finger in that dike, that one place that we're a little bit careless, it can change our whole perspective on the month. May we be zeicha, each in their own personal lives, to understand that if at this time we care to be medaktik, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will not be medaktik with us. And we should be zeicha, and we blow the shofar, that indeed we move HaKadosh Baruch Hu from the Kisei Adin to the Kisei Arachamim, and we should be zoichet to have a year gebenched with gesund, parnosa, nachas, and we should feel unfrustrated and be able to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'simcha and grow in Yiras Shamayim and Avas HaTorah.